Hey everyone, welcome back to the Thundertron podcast. So today I'm going to be discussing and giving you my thoughts on the recently revealed Transformers HasLab Legacy Robots in Disguise 2001 Omega Prime. Now before we get into my thoughts and all the information that we have on this figure, please leave your thoughts on this figure in the comment section down below. Will you be backing it or will you be passing on it? Now getting into the basic bare bones information that we have on this figure, the figure will be priced at $250, not including tax and shipping, so do keep in mind that hefty price tag before you go to back or pledge money towards this figure. As for how long you can back this item, it's actually starting today, January 30th, and ending on March 14th at midnight, so around 44 or 45 days, depending how you look at it. And you might be wondering how many current backers or people are backing this item. So as of the time I am recording this audio or video, there is currently 3,159 backers. Now discussing the tiers that are included with this HasLab item, as for the first tier, if you do get 13,000 backers, you can unlock the Matrix Blade, which is actually 23.5 inches tall or long, which is almost double the size of the figure itself. But I do quite like the color scheme Hasbro chose for this sword. I do like the dark energon purple for the blade with the really nice black and silver paint-ups for the hilt and handle of the weapon. That being said, since it's so massive, I don't think this weapon's very practical to put with the Omega Prime figure, because I've seen quite a few images of the sword in the figure's hand, and it really dwarfs and covers up a lot of the figure. I'm just thinking, how could you display it? It would just stick out and cover the figure so much. So I think it's going to be pretty hard to display this figure in my collection. So I might just put it off to the side in a parts bin, but I did hear a rumor the sword might be compatible with some Titan classes, so maybe you could do that instead. But getting into the second tier, if we do get 16,000 backers, we can unlock 2 stands. And you might be wondering, why does it include 2 stands when the previous HasLabs, such as Unicron, Death Source, and Victory Saber, only came with 1? Well, this set actually comes with 3 figures, so you can actually display 2 of the 3 figures at the same time, which I think is such a good idea. They could have easily gone the cheap route and done like the previous HasLabs where it only comes with 1. Now, this isn't official, but I'm pretty sure the 2 stands that are included are going to be the exact same thing. I don't think they're specific to each figure. I'm pretty sure you can take any of them and put them with any figure. But also, I do have to add a side note. Since Blue Bolts is one of the smallest figures of this set, he might not be compatible with the stands. My theory is they included 2 stands specifically for Ultram Magnus and Optimus Prime, but maybe possibly you can use it with Blue Bolts. I'm really just kind of theorizing and guessing here, but I'm really glad it comes with 2. And another really cool feature is if you don't want to use the stands and maybe perchance you want to display Omega Prime in his alt mode, you can actually take away the stand arms, of course the pole that's actually attaching to their back. If you do remove those, you can actually use the plates or the bases of the stand, combine them, and actually forms kind of this road or environment to display with your Omega Prime figure. Now discussing the figures that are included with this HasLab set, we're going to start off with Optimus Prime in his simple robot mode, not his combined form. We'll get to that a little later in this Thundertron podcast segment, but I do like the very angular anime design with the dark red, blue, white, and gray. I do love the really cool huge wheels at the front of the legs and the transparent blue where the ankles are and the nice dark black for the feet. Moving on to his alt mode, I currently own quite a few Optimus Prime figures, G1 and live action, but I do not own any Optimus Prime figure that transforms into a fire truck, but this HasLab set will change that. So I do like the change of pace with the really cool huge ladder at the top, which is pretty cool. I'm pretty sure it can move up and down and a full 360, so you can use that for some really cool action shots and poses of him putting out a fire. I do like the really cool text underneath the transparent blue windows. If I were to be picky, I've never seen the corresponding series to this figure, so I could be wrong, I could be right. Let me know in the comments if I am. But the combiner head is kind of sticking up out of the back section of the fire truck, so it's pretty visible. I'm not really too keen on the placement there, but again, that could be accurate to the series and the original toy. I don't know, so kind of inform me of that in the comments below. But that's really my one complaint. And one last detail I do want to mention is I'm pretty sure the wheels are pinned. Of course, I'm going by this render, this image here, but I could be wrong. They do do appear to be pinned. As for his combined form, of course, you can grab sort of his trailer pieces, his extra kibble pieces, and you can grab his robot mode and sort of form this super mode, which looks really, really cool. I do like the new head sculpt with the really nice dark orange, red, silver, and gray color scheme. I think it's pretty cool how the huge fire truck ladder sort of forms his back. I think the design of that is cool. My only concern is, will that get in the way of the articulation and posability? Like, will he have a waist rotation, or will they just not put one in because that huge ladder is there? I would hope maybe you can kind of move it around to accommodate the posability whenever you're doing a pose, and like once you have it in that pose you like, you can move it back down in the correct position. So we'll have to see about that. And it does appear to me that he does have maybe some finger articulation, because he does seem to have quite large hands and he seems like a very big figure. So hopefully he can have a few joints and hinges in his fingers maybe. But moving on to his final mode, if you do grab all those pieces from like the trailer, you can still have the simple Optimus Prime separate from this, but there is a base mode, which is probably my least favorite mode a part of this figure, because it really seems like a last minute thought. I'm pretty sure this mode is from the series, so I do think it's accurate. I do think probably base modes are the weakest mode, or kind of the weakest thing Hasbro does, because they do them a lot with Titan classes and Commander classes, and I'll show them once for my review and like I'll never transform them again, and it's probably gonna happen with this one because it's really just not my favorite. But that is pretty much it for Optimus. Now moving on to the next figure, we're going to be talking about Ultram Magnus, which he might be my least favorite figure from this HasLab set. But starting in the remote, you'll have the huge panels at the back of the figure that sort of look like wings from the front, which is pretty cool in my opinion. I do love the huge chunky wheels from the truck mode actually end up on his chest in the remote. I think that's a pretty cool crossover detail between the two modes. I love how chunky and big the shoulders, the forearms, and the hands are. Really shows how strong and intimidating he is in it. From the pictures, it actually looks like he might have some finger articulation, which is pretty cool. And the head sculpt, no, it doesn't look like his classic G1 design, but I think it's a bit of a change, and I think it works for me. I do like the blue, the white, and the yellow, which looks really good. Now, moving on to my least favorite part about this robot mode design is the legs. I think they're way too long, way too big, really out of proportion with the rest of the figure. And I have to make one thing clear. I'm not blaming Hasbro because of this, because of course Hasbro, they just made the toy. They didn't make this design, of course. They're just making this toy based off of the Robots in Disguise 2001 series. So really, I'm critiquing whoever made this Ultram Magnus design, and of course, I mean, no offense, it just doesn't work for me. I definitely prefer the G1 version. There are things I like about it, but I think the legs are just way too big for the rest of the figure. But as for his alternate form, it definitely reminds me of the Siege Leader class Ultram Magnus, and that is like this huge rectangle box. You can barely tell apart the truck from the actual trailer because it's all one solid brick, which actually kind of works in this one. I do like the huge trailer with all the wheels, the gunmetal gray, and it actually shows that you can take the final figure blue bolts and actually have him in his weapon mode and attach it to the trailer to sort of weaponize him or upgrade him, which I think is pretty cool. And I also do love the huge gold Autobot symbol at the front grille with all the blue and gunmetal gray, and I do like that really nice transparent blue plastic for the entire windscreen. Now taking a look at the final figure from this HasLab set, that being Blue Bolts. Blue Bolts actually does have a bit of an interesting backstory in that he never had a robot mode in the Robots in Disguise series. He was only a weapon, so Hasbro decided to get really creative and create an entire brand new robot mode for this character, which I think was a really good idea. I do quite like the very simple color scheme and design. It's mostly blue, gray, and red, but I like the choice of the light blue, the light gray, because I think it pops really well with that super dark red color for the visor and the wrists. I also do like how pretty much the entire form and hand is this huge Gatling gun, so he doesn't even have fingers or hands. As for his alternate form, if you are a fan of the Robots in Disguise series, I'm pretty sure you probably do recognize this gun. I'm not sure how often it was used in the series, because of course I've never seen the series, as I mentioned before. Maybe he was a pretty pivotal part in the show, or he was a very minor role, I don't know. But the main feature or function of this mode, if you don't know, is he is pretty much compatible with all the modes in this HasLab set, so he can attach to Ultram Magnus's truck mode. Maybe he can attach to Optimus Prime's fire truck mode, and I do know he has a very important role in the super combined form of Omega Prime. Now that we have taken a look at all three figures, we do have one final mode to take a look at, which is the combination of all three previous figures we were talking about and taking a look at into one giant robot, that being Omega Prime, which is definitely the main attraction of this HasLab set. And I'm probably going to display Omega Prime this mode in my collection most likely, but quickly taking a look at it, I do have to be honest, there's not that many images of this mode. There's a lot of the three individual figures and their alt modes, so unfortunately there's not going to be that many images of this mode up on your screen, and I really don't have a lot to say because they are renders, so they probably will change in the end. But I did hear during the live stream that they will have colored prototypes of all these figures very soon. So maybe in the next few weeks or maybe a month, we'll add some more images on HasLab Pulse, and maybe I'll do kind of a part 2 of my thoughts on these figures. But for right now, I think it looks really good. I'm very impressed with how clean and compact it is because it's three different figures, which is pretty hard to do because usually when there's a combiner, it's only two. Sometimes it's five, of course, because they're own separate limbs, but they're pretty much getting all three and trying to make one robot, which I can imagine is going to be very hard. And I'm really interested on how that transformation is going to go. It might be very complex. I'll just have to wait and see on that. But I do have a bit of a complaint visually. There's quite a few different color schemes going on, and it can kind of clash at times when you're looking at the figure. It can be a bit hodgepodgey because there's just so many different colors from the three different figures. But overall, it works pretty well. And that's all I really have to say. I just think it looks really good. But I do hope you enjoyed this special Thundertron podcast segment. Let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below. Will you be backing it or will you be passing on it? And I will see you next time.